Hello, everybody. Today, this is James Diboe, your host on discovering new things, and we have a special guest in today, sous chef, traditional Nigerian chef Joseph Adekoya. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's good to be here, James.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on anyway. And I'm Nigerian too, so it's definitely the connection we have. And also, we're going to start off. You're the sous chef, so let's go a bit on your timeline. And also, you'll have a business which is your traditional Nigerian food. First of all, where can people find you? Is on social media?
Right, my name is Joseph Adekoya, which is spelled Adekoya. So you can find me on Facebook that way. I also have a food business called Adeola Foods, which is Adeola Foods, which you can also find me on Facebook as well. That's my business page on Facebook.
Okay, well, I've tasted your food anyway, and I really enjoyed it. Your jollof rice, your jerk platter.
Thank you very much.
Jerk chicken.
My slogan for my business is a taste explosion in the mouth.
Yeah.
So basically, once you've tasted my food, you're always going to come back for seconds and thirds.
I mean, I cook a goosey myself, but
Cool.
you the master at that, a goosey.
Thank you very much. Everyone seems to like it and come back for more.
Yeah, now you're doing well there. So where do we begin now? Well, you're born in Nigeria, first of all.
Yes, I was born in Nigeria on the 14th of April, 1977.
Okay. Now, you came here when you were about 16, is that right?
I came here when I was 15 in
15.
1992. It seems like a lifetime ago now.
You come with your family?
Yes, I came with my mom.
Okay.
Yes.
So was you already a cook before you came to England?
No. You know what? For an African kid, I was quite lucky to have my mom because I was privately school educated. So when I came here when I was 15, I'd only just come out of boarding school. So from boarding school to England.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So now when you came here, you started going to college and then you became a sous chef.
No, when I came here, I lived in London for maybe a year, then moved to Liverpool, and then I read business studies in Bankfield College, which I think is now closed down.
Oh yeah.
And then I did an HND in business and finance as well. But I've always had a passion for cooking.
Yeah.
So eventually, about 15 years ago, after working within the business and finance sector, I got made redundant, and I thought I'm going back to college to learn chefing or catering work, because all the places I went to try and get chef work were asking me for a chef qualification, which I didn't have.
Yeah.
So I thought it was best to go back to college for a year to get those qualifications, even though I could cook.
Yeah.
But it was better to have a qualification that shows that you've learned the basics of English or European cuisines, stuff that I wouldn't generally eat myself.
Yeah.
But you would be expected to know how to cook, being a chef in the industry.
Right, okay. So with the traditional Nigerian food now, you could cook Nigerian before you got to England, I'm assuming.
I always watched my mom cook, and my mom always had this saying, as I'm sure like most African mothers would do, that she wanted us to learn how to cook. So in case if and then when we ever got married and the wife doesn't want to cook,
Wow.
you can just jump in the kitchen and do a much better job than she can. So that's where.
Well, it's funny you say that,
That's
because
where my
usually
learning-
when I think of African women or Jamaican women, they can usually cook.
Well, I'm not saying they can't
We
cook.
talking about in this day and age.
No, I'm not saying
change
I'm
or
not saying they
something.
can't cook. What she basically meant was, say if you and your wife or your partner were to get into kind of an argument or
Just doesn't want to cook.
or just
today.
doesn't want to cook for you because she's trying to punish you for I'm not cooking today, so I'll just get in the kitchen and do a much better job. That was the ethos behind that from my mom. It's not because that black women can cook. Black women can cook. Black women are amazing cook, but it was just to A life skill.
Well, you need independence. Let's just put it that way, because if you know
Yeah.
a lot of African men can usually cook. Jamaican men can usually cook. You know.
Yeah, it's a life skill that's paved me well so far
Yeah.
because I can't see any woman not wanting to cook for me, and that'll become that means I'd have to leave on takeaways. I'll just go into the kitchen and do a better job than she can.
That's
I
it.
love baking as well, so I bake. I don't really like eating what I cook or
Okay. Yeah.
bake.
Yeah.
I just love making them, and food for me is the satisfaction in people's response to my
So when we deal
to my
with
products.
so when we deal with your specialty, what would you say is your specialty?
Well, at the moment, everyone seems to be liking my egusi soup that I'm cooking,
That's very nice.
and yes, it is indeed. I learned how to do that from my mom, and she still gives me tips. My mom is 80. Grateful for that she's still with us.
Good.
Um, yeah, so every now and again, I still pick her brains on how to improve on what I'm doing because, as I said, I was lucky to have her coming from Africa as a parent.
Yeah.
She had several businesses in Nigeria,
Oh, great.
and so the thing about Africa or Nigeria is there's no in between. You're either rich or poor.
Okay.
There's no middle class. Yeah.
Mm.
Over here, if you don't work, the government still take care. They still take care of you.
Right. Yeah.
Over
Yeah.
there, if you have to survive over in Africa, otherwise, you'd starve to death. So not necessarily starve to death, but it's not. It won't be as comfortable here.
See, when you
as
just
in-
said about you were privately educated in the school you went to in Nigeria,
Yes.
private school.
Yeah.
Now I found when I went to other parts of Africa, it's important to go to a private school. See where here you can just go to whatever school, and then if you've got the qualifications or you can work your way up, you can get a good job. How would you describe it in Nigeria if you don't go to a private school?
You say you don't necessarily have to go to a private school to get an education because obviously there will be millions and millions of children out there
Yeah.
that goes to government funded schools.
Right.
It is what it is. In my schools that I went to, we learned how to speak English, French, which you wouldn't necessarily get in those government funded schools.
Okay.
Yeah. It's more or less the same thing over here. You pay what you get what you pay for. So yeah, I went my primary school. I started in a nursery and then worked my way up to the primary school, and then but I actually started learning to play the drums when I was in the primary school. I was in a group called the Boys Brigade.
Oh, we have them here. Yeah. Boys Brigade. Yeah. Yeah.
It was founded by the British, obviously,
Oh, yeah, of course.
and just like the Boy Scouts were. And when you find out about the guy that actually founded the Boy Scouts, I can't believe that organization is still going. Baden Powell was a brute. He was a brute. So I can't believe the Boy Scouts is still in existence today, despite that the fact that the guy who founded it was a brute to Africans and Australians. Those people, they weren't good people.
Of course.
To the extent that I would say they were actually monsters back then. And, barbarians, yeah, and they're called.
That's a nice word.
They are barbarians. They're trying to call us savages and barbarians, when in fact that they were the barbarians and the savages. We welcomed them in our midst with open arms, and they came with germs, diseases, and warfare. So I was in the Boys Brigade, and learned how to play the drums.
Still play the drums?
I still play the drums very well. Years ago, I used to play around Liverpool in the clubs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I used to do I used to play with the DJs whilst the DJ was playing, and I'd have my drum kit all set up, and it was fun.
Well, you know what? I think definitely. I'm happy you told me about the drums. Maybe we can do something in the future or something. Where you're playing the drums and that.
I look forward to it.
Most definitely.
It'd be amazing.
So you're the bard, aren't you, Tribe?
Yes, sir.
Nigeria.
Yes.
So when we deal with Yoruba, that's like the main language in Nigeria, would you say?
You know what? For me, I'm not. I wouldn't say that because Nigeria is three different major languages amalgamated by the British. I think they used to have a saying back then: "Divide and rule."
Yeah,
If you put three different countries together, whilst those people are fighting each other, they're taking their eyes away from their common enemy, who was the British people.
of course.
So they joined us together. And for me, there are some people that say the Yoruba people need to have their own country called the Oduduwa Nation. The Igbo people, the Middle Easterns, want their own country called Biafra, which was like the Biafra War of the 70s. And obviously the Hausa as well. All these three great different tribes make it.
What about my tribe, the Ijo?
The Ijo people, the Ijo people are.
We're the first Nigerians.
No, I don't know that much, but the Ijo people are mixed in with the Igbo, so which is why I said
that's
three
correct.
major tribes.
Yeah.
So those three different great tribes make one great nation, which is Nigeria.
That's it.
I don't want Nigeria to separate. I want Nigeria to stay the way it is.
Yeah. Well, look at Benin.
Benin,
yeah. That was one time part of Nigeria. Innit?
Oh, Benin Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just like Niger Republic as well.
Yeah.
Niger, yeah.
Also, we're part of Cameroon.
Yeah, all these places.
Nice,
like I think most of them were part of the Yoruba land.
Yeah.
Because at one point, the Oyo Empire was massive. Like
the Bantus also came out of there as well.
Yeah, like the Oduduwa nation was massive at one point. But as far as I'm concerned, Nigeria the way it is now serves me, or not me particularly, but serves us better because if Nigeria was to go into a civil war, it'd be a total devastation like you've never seen before in Africa.
Well, on the way up here, we were talking about where my tribe is, the Ijo tribe. We're around a lot of the oil.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble going on there still.
That's I think the oil that we have in Nigeria is a blessing and a curse. It's unfortunate that the leaders that we have in Nigeria are very corrupt and they don't serve the public as much as they should do. For instance, I know if we were served correctly with the resources and natural resources the money that our natural resources bring in, Nigerians won't be in Europe or in America. We'd be home.
Most definitely.
Most definitely, because Nigerians, okay, for instance, the number one robotic engineer in the world is Nigerian.
Okay.
Yeah. He designed the drone that killed Osama bin Laden. He designed and flew it for the Americans. So imagine if we had that brain in Nigeria. Why is it in America? Now, the doctor, there was a Nigerian physician or a doctor in America that brought out a baby, unborn baby, and treated it and put it back in the mom's womb. So the baby could finish growing in the mother's womb naturally.
Wow.
That's a Nigerian doctor who did that.
See, you don't get told about these things.
No, you don't know these things. Imagine having that brain back in a Nigerian hospital. Just imagine that alone. So, yeah, it's quite sad really that, we don't get served by our governments as well as we should do. I think greed and selfishness and corruption is the detriment to Nigeria. We should not be in Europe or in America. We should be back home like the Saudis are with the amount of money we have. Now, we've also just discovered plutonium in Nigeria as well. And your phones can't work without plutonium.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's see what that brings in for the next generation.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, well, we talked about people have misconceptions of Africa as a whole. We deal with the importance of African history every time we come on the show. People, it's like when we having a conversation before about Shango. The expressions like Shango, the god of thunder, You know, you have the god of wind. You know, you have Ogon and Sean, and you can go on forever with these names. But
But this all
expressions don't. When this is not the supreme being.
no,
That's what I mean.
they just an arm branch of God. You know, for me, I think about life in stages, and history repeats itself, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Your dad posted a video or made a comment on a video yesterday with regards to the Chinese coming to Africa.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the worst thing that could happen to Africa.
The Chinese take over.
Oh, with the influx of the Chinese, we will see brutality like we've never seen before from the Chinese people.
I agree. Well, when you see how I deal with things is the root of cultures. So I'll look at China in ancient times on how they became what they became. And I'll see a lot of the indigenous peoples who I showed you pictures of them. You know, the indigenous black people of Asia who I was showing you. Now, at one time, they would have been all up in south of China. During the Shang dynasty, so we can go back about 2000 odd BC, this was the Black Shang dynasty. Renaud Rashidi spoke on it. We've got many scholars who've spoken on it. We just don't have Europeans speaking on it.
Oh yeah, because
You know.
they don't want you to let you know. I'm not sure whether you even know that in Japan,
In Japan,
to be a samurai,
yeah,
you have to have black blood.
that's right.
The first samurai was a black man.
That's right.
And so going back to like what I was talking about before with the Chinese people,
Because in Japan, it was the German people who were the first people there, and they were black people.
They were black, and
Yeah.
you know, to the extent that, you know, when you look at like okay, Africa has been enslaved twice. Yeah, we firstly got enslaved by the Arabs,
Yeah,
which is why we lost North Africa to them.
yeah,
Many people want to let you believe that Tunisia, Libya, Morocco, Egypt, and all these places were Arab nations. No, they're not.
of course.
We
Not.
we lost it to them by becoming Muslims.
Well,
Um,
that word when they called Sudan, you know, that's an Arabic word meaning the land of the blacks, what they considered where they haven't conquered below
Yeah.
North Africa.
yeah, because
Also, don't we have to deal with before the Arabs also the Greeks? They call Africans Ethiopians,
well, that's because
Libyans.
But that's because, you know, when all these Europeans just meet a group of black people, they don't, at that point in time, they weren't traveling as much as Africans were.
They weren't penetrating too
No,
much into
no, no,
Africa.
no, no.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
saw
yeah,
one
yeah,
group
yeah.
of people and thought, oh yeah, Ethiopians, and everyone else is got to be Ethiopians. Whereas at that point in time, we know that Africans were already in the South Americas,
Yep.
without a shadow of a doubt, because you can't get tobacco at that time anywhere in the world apart from South America. And
You got Carthaginian money in South America as well. That was found.
yeah, and then
There's a lot of the
and then you've
disruptions
got
and
the
earthquakes, and
structures.
they were buried under. Yeah,
And then you've got Machu Picchu as well, with its
Yeah.
pyramids that aligns with the one in Egypt. So Africans were traveling.
most definitely.
You know, we're also finding cocaine traces in the hairs of the pharaohs. You know, not that they were having cocaine, but they were chewing the tobacco leaves.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so we were trading with South America way before the Europeans thought about
They knew-
exploration. They knew nothing.
The currents of the ocean, they knew. You know,
Well,
the
no,
currents. You've got like off West Africa. There's a part they'll take you into North America, part take you
Yeah.
into Mexico, part take you into Brazil. So they knew these currents.
we did, Africans did, but
That's
the
what I'm saying.
Europeans didn't.
Yeah,
You know,
they were taught.
they were taught by Africans how to navigate the high seas, but they're not going to let you know that.
Yeah,
Anyway, so with the Chinese and the Arabs, you know, we became Africans. I don't understand why our leaders don't learn from the past mistakes.
that's right.
You know, we became Muslims, and then we got enslaved by the Arabs, and then the Europeans came with their religion as well. We threw away Islam. Well, some people did. We became Christians, and we got enslaved again. So now the Chinese are coming. What's going to happen? Eventually, you know, there is like 1.5 billion Chinaman or Chinese people in the world, and so they can't exist in China anymore. They need to go and find new ventures.
That's right. That yeah.
Because there's too many of them.
There's too many. Yeah.
So where's the next place to go? Africa, and we're allowing it again.
Yeah,
It breaks my heart.
Well, the thing is they don't respect black people.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
And I find out they're very hostile towards us.
Well, which is why I said to you, the brutality that we will find from the Chinese will be like nothing we've ever seen before. If you thought the Europeans were brutal,
Yeah.
the Chinese will be a devastation.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. Because like say for instance, I was watching a video where like when I think it was last year in Zimbabwe or Namibia, where there were 7 workers and their Chinese boss in their own country, right, locked 7 people up in a room during COVID, sleeping side by side. So that meant that you're basically killing these people in their own country, because if one person has COVID in that room, they've all got it because they're breathing in the same air.
Yeah, yeah.
How can you do that to someone in his own country?
Well, I seen how they were treating black people in China.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You know, like when during the pandemic and that,
Yeah.
they were going crazy on
They
them.
was going nuts.
And this is it, where we need to stop looking for this helping hand all the time.
You see, that's the thing, though. We don't.
It's not that we look for it.
Someone
People
said,
will take advantage
yeah,
of
course,
conditions.
Someone said once that you don't go to a poor country to get rich. Think about that Think about that saying. Africa is not poor.
Exactly.
Because you don't go to a poor place to get rich.
Yeah.
Think of that.
So what about you were saying before about the Queen of Sheba being from Nigeria?
The Queen of Sheba, I showed you on YouTube before.
Yeah.
She died on their chariots, because that's what they used to have back then.
Chariot, yeah.
Um,
How far are we going back?
we're talking about the Bible times. Queen of Sheba was mentioned in the Bible.
No, I know that.
In the Old Testament.
But when you're dealing with the Bible, you're dealing with like AD.
We're talking about before Christ, so we're talking BC.
Before that, yeah, BC.
We're talking BC.
Okay.
Because Queen of Sheba was mentioned in the Old Testament, and she died in Ogun State, and I've just shown you a burial site.
Well, the burial site is much more relevant to me than just something what's written in the book.
Of course.
So when they unearthed these skeletal remains, do you know what the date was on them?
I haven't actually delved into it that much, because I just remember vaguely my mom mentioning it when I was a kid back in Nigeria, and some of these things stick with you.
I checked it out myself, yeah.
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah. But that's good, that, though. It's interesting.
It did stick with me. There's so many passages in the Bible that you just think, okay, if you were a thinking person, you just need to sit down and decipher it. So take, for instance, Daniel in the Bible would have been an African.
Of course.
Okay? Because if you think about it, really, if you were going to put logic to it, where do you find lions?
Oh, there you go. The Africa.
Africa, yeah? So Daniel was put into a lion's den. So which means Daniel was what? African.
Exactly.
They won't let you think of that. But all these things, the Bible, people like me, we read the Bible, but we question it, whereas Christians don't.
Okay.
Christians just read and say, oh, yeah, God. But I want to question it.
But you see, the thing is with religion, though, westernized religions, even whether it doesn't matter if it's coming from the Middle East or whatever, Africa is the oldest people, and we have the oldest civilizations, and you can go to ancient Kemet and you'll see this is like the foundation of everything.
Of course it is. It's the blueprint.
It's the blueprint. So when we're always looking outside, or a foreign invader wants to come in and give us a watered down version of what we had the greatest knowledge.
Well, when
but that's being conquered. The conqueror writes
a
history, his story. That's how it is.
It's been stolen. Because like when the Portuguese adventurer first got to Benin City, we had street lights, which he'd never seen in Europe before, in Benin. And he wrote in his reports back to the kings and queens of Portugal back then, or the king of Spain, because he would have traveled under the guise of the Spanish king or queen back then. He wrote, "I've never seen anything like this before. The streets are paved in gold." So
Have you ever looked into the Great Walls of Benin?
Well, it was funny enough that we were only talking about that the other day, weren't we?
Bigger than the walls of
It's
China
bigger and longer and well
than the Great
better
Wall.
structured than the Great Wall of China.
See,
But they don't let you know all this stuff,
exactly.
you know.
What about
so-
the Igbo pyramids? There was Igbo pyramids before.
And there's also the Awusa pyramids as well.
Yeah, I mean, because like with someone, there was a European who spotted these in the 1800s, and I think they've been destroyed now. I'd have to go to the site my actual self.
I'm not quite sure. Like, possibly have been destroyed, but I wouldn't.
Now, when we say pyramids, yeah, there's different kinds of pyramids.
Yeah, you know, don't forget that when they were building these pyramids, they were building them for spiritual purposes.
Exactly.
It wasn't meant to be a tourist site at all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They weren't building it for people can come and look at this 5,000 years later.
Yeah.
It was built for a purpose, which is more or less like a burial site.
Burial sites, yeah.
Burial site of the Black Kings. Egyptians are not Arabs. The original Egyptians were black.
Well, the three-step pyramid I seen in Tonga, that was a burial site.
Yeah, because you want to be ascending to God.
Yeah.
Which is what the pyramid stands for. The Egyptians of today are imposters. The original Egyptians are black people,
Exactly.
from more or less from Sudan, from
Nubians, Kush,
from Kush, Ethiopia, because as I said to you earlier on, Sudan has more sphinxes and more pyramids,
yeah,
than Egypt does,
and they're older,
and they're still there. So if the Sudanese of today are black, what does that make the Egyptians?
Of course,
yesterday.
Africa's been getting conquered for a long time. There's a great book I've got, Destruction of the Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, from 4,500 BC to 2000 AD. Now, he lived to about 99 years of age, Chancellor Williams, and he just seemed like he was so ahead of his time. He died in about 1990, was it 92 or something? 1893 he was born, he died in 1992. So I can imagine that era of what he witnessed. Also, when he was going to Sudan, he was going to South Africa, you know, he was doing a lot of research. He had so much problem in South Africa because as a black man researching back then, and also in Sudan, he had trouble trying to get into South Sudan. He didn't have too much problem getting to North because that's conquered, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's just like when I study like Chancellor Williams, I have so much information.
You see, the thing about
he takes us way back when it comes to invasions. The Hyksoks he's dealing with before that, the Sea Peoples he's dealing with. It's unbelievable how many times Egypt has been invaded from ancient times.
because when you look at a place like Egypt back then, they had civilization that can match today's civilization.
Oh, definitely.
Back then, you know, they had prosthetic arms. Yeah, they had on the floor heating in Egypt. They had central heating, which is where all these Europeans came to learn from. The Greeks learned in Egypt. The Italians almost, because what's his name, Mark Antony, they won't let you think that the Queen of Sheba, Cleopatra, is white. No, she wasn't. She was an Ethiopian queen, Nubian queen that Mark Antony got married to. Basically, like, black history hasn't been. They don't want you to know how interesting black history is.
Yeah.
You know, there's the saying that goes, the deeper you dig, the blacker it gets.
That's right.
You know what I mean? The deeper you dig, the blacker it gets.
Most definitely.
There's a scholar that I follow on Facebook called Dr. Rashid Runoko.
Oh, that's me mentor.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And it just feeds my brain to see where we've been.
Well, he's a unique person.
He's traveled the world.
He's done like 125 countries in search of the global African credits.
Yeah, of course he has.
I mean, his mentor was Dr. Adam van Sertima, who covered the Olmecs.
The Olmecs. I was just going to talk about the Olmecs.
But Renaud Rashidi basically put his work on steroids.
Yeah, he went OTT with it.
You know,
over top.
and
Over the
Runoko
top.
Rashidi is a great influence for myself when I've been visiting all these black peoples of Asia and
Yeah.
going into different parts. He's influenced me, you know what I'm saying, to do some of these trips. So he's like a person, you know, I brought him to.
He's a fountain of knowledge, because when it came to Liverpool, I actually went to one of his seminars to listen to him talk, and it was a very, very fascinating guy, because once you know your history from a black experience rather than from
Whitewash.
from a white
whitewash.
version
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
because you start to think, wow, because I remember back in school in Nigeria, there's two rivers in Nigeria, yeah, River Niger and River Benue. Even black teachers in Africa were teaching black kids that the first person to discover the source, yeah, of River Niger was Mungo Park, who was a Scottish man. And now later on in life, I'm thinking, how can a Scottish person discover the source and base of River Niger? We weren't docile. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there would have been a king at one point that would have appointed someone to go and find where this river starts from, and hence we weren't stupid, because if you look at the fact that King Mansa Musa of Mali back then,
Yeah.
we know for a fact that he sent out like 100 ships to discover the new world, the
Yeah.
great seas, and we believe that it was only 1 or 10 of those ships that came back. So if we're discovering the high seas, well, surely, we can discover the source of a river that feeds the local community.
Yeah.
You want to see where it's coming
Well,
from.
Nigeria has actually got the oldest boat, the Dafuna canoe. I researched this one, and it's at the Lagos Museum, and it's about 8,500 years ago,
There you go.
and it was in northern Nigeria, so it must
Yeah.
have been like they've dug it out.
And brought it down. Yeah, so obviously that must have been
So-
flowing on River Benue, because the River Benue runs from the northern part of Nigeria. So like it's amazing when
So I've not seen no boats. I've researched all these different boats. I've not seen no boats older. I like a canoe.
canoe.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you need that's what you need to go on rivers with, canoe.
exactly.
So yeah, it was only a few years back that I'm thinking, wow, how can Mungo Park be what it meant to say was the first white man or the first European to discover the source of River Niger was Mungo Park, not the first man.
That's nonsense.
Now that is absolutely diabolical.
Yeah,
That's just disrespectful to the Africans that have lived there for millennium.
that's it.
That's ridiculous.
So you still speak Yoruba, then, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. I speak Yoruba to my family, but I'm not as fluent as I once was.
Give us a couple of words before
No,
we go.
Bawoni.
Bawani.
Yes.
What's that mean?
Means how are you?
How are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ekason means good afternoon.
Akasa.
Ekason.
Akasa.
So like, yeah, it's just basically the way you speak in my language changes depending on the age of the person that you're talking to. So if I was speaking to someone younger than me, I would just say Carson, which means I know that he's younger than me.
Okay.
If I'm speaking to someone older than me, I would say E Carson, which means I'm showing them the sign of respect that they are older than me, which is more or less the same thing for good evening. Kale means to a young person who is my age or who's younger than me. E Kale would be to someone who is older than me.
Oh yeah, we got to respect our elders, haven't we?
Yeah.
That's big in Africa, all over.
Yeah. It takes a community to raise a child back home. I'm not sure how it is now, but back then, everyone did their bit to raise the village. But times have changed. Who knows?
That's it, But
Who knows?
yeah, but you know what? It's been great having you on. Anyway, I've been waiting to have someone who's born in Africa as well to come on the show.
Thank you.
I think I've really enjoyed today's talk. Plus, as well, explaining about your history as a chef. You're a traditional Nigerian chef as well, and
Thank you.
it's about promoting your business too. You know,
Yes, please come and try my food out at Adeola Foods.
that's it. You know,
And find me on Facebook or Joseph Adekoya on Instagram as well.
that's it. But I want to thank you today for coming, Joseph. You know,
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
it's been a pleasure anyway. And this is James Diboe, your host, and we're discovering new things all the time. You know, we're going around the world with it. We want different guests in. And, you know, Joseph, I want to really thank you very much for coming. And hopefully, you know, good luck with your business anyway.
Thank you very much.
Your food's amazing.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for that as well. Yeah, I'm glad you like my food, and keep spreading the word, please.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much. Peace.